So, when did counseling stop being about problem solving? Well, not anymore. Introducing solution-focused counseling with the unlicensed counselor. And now, here's your host, Steve Moak.
Well, hello and welcome to another episode of The Unlicensed Counselor. My name is Steve Moak. I am the Unlicensed Counselor and so grateful as always to be here on a beautiful little overcast kind of rainy day here in Scottsdale. Still a little warm, but I'm telling you, the end is in sight. And, you know, this is also the start of just a great time of year out here in Arizona. Obviously, I'm very fond of our state, but now is when we come into just the glorious times, hiking, biking. I went up to Flagstaff with a friend last weekend. This state, you know, not that I need more people to move here, but I mean, you can go from cactus and desert, you know, you shoot 2 hours north and it's lakes and mountains and clouds, and it's just so diverse, and they're skiing, like it's just awesome. And, you know, I feel very fortunate and lucky and grateful to be able to spend time here. And to get out and explore this state is just a ton of fun. So, you know, good stuff going around. And by the way, I'm wearing my Diamondback shirt. D-backs are looking like we may head into the playoffs here if we can hold on to a wild card spot. Tonight, this episode we record on a Thursday is actually the Arizona State football's first game. I'm actually going to that, taking my daughter and some friends to that game as well, too. So, and then the NFL starts. It's just, you know, it's like, this is that time of year where we just kind of pick up steam. We're getting out of the heat out here. You know, it's all smiles out here in Scottsdale, Arizona. So just happy. I was taking some time over the weekend and actually reflecting while I was up in Flagstaff. It's like life is pretty good. You know, been divorced for almost a year now, and you look back and it's like, man, what a journey. Like there was some dark periods, some rough stretches, but you got your health, you got your family, you got friends, you've got great things going on. We got a fun podcast to be able to share a lot of good stuff. So just pretty good. I encourage everybody who's out there listening, take a minute and kind of think of something you're grateful for, as always, on a day like today. But today, I want to talk about how do you have some fun, right, in sobriety and recovery, not drinking. It is a super, super common question, and one that almost paralyzes people when they're thinking about stopping drinking, right? And I'll break it down a little bit of just not only how do you have fun, but maybe some things not to do as well too, kind of early on. And then things shift kind of over time. There's kind of a trajectory in recovery. And again, recovery, and I call recovery abstinence, right? Not using drinking or drugs. That's my definition of it. I don't know when or why I have to clarify that anymore these days, but the world has changed in terms of how it defines these things. But I'll just give you a little pointers and feedback. September 11, 2014 is my sobriety day. I'm coming up on 9 years here. So thought I'd maybe take a moment and reflect back on that and just kind of share some of the things I've done right, some of the things I've done wrong. And then I'd love to hear some of your feedback. And then at the end, I maybe want to answer a couple questions. They've been stacking up. You know, I kind of got away from answering some questions at the end of the podcast, but they've been stacking up and getting some interesting feedback on Facebook and Instagram and things like that as well, too. So, you know, looking forward to just diving into all this on the show today. But before we do that, as always, want to thank our friends over at ShareTech. Look, the number one most important thing that you need is accuracy when you're doing a drug and alcohol screen, right? That is ShareTech. They have proprietary technology that allows this test to not be cheated. If your loved one is able to evade detection from one of these other different types of tests, not using this proprietary system that ShareTech has developed, then you're really doing a disservice to your loved one. And honestly, it can be fatal, not to be scary. But look, if we let somebody go and they continue to use and they get some fentanyl or something cut into whatever they're using, I mean, that could be the last time that they use. So with ShareTech, we can guarantee that we're going to know that person took that test, and here are the most accurate results available on the market. Go to betterdrugtest.com. Please pick up one of these tests. You'll thank me later. Your loved one will thank me later. Usually over time, they're usually not too thrilled when they find out that they can't cheat a drug test. But, you know, when they're 30, 60, 90, a year sober, yeah, maybe I'll get a thank you note. Don't need one, but I'm just saying that. And as always, our friends at EasySheets.club. Look, this is the most fun subscription that you're going to be able to sleep on. I mean, you spend, a third of your life asleep in your bed, right? Let's update this a little bit. I'm sure most of you have some nice sheets. How often are you cleaning them? At minimum, it should be 2 weeks. My doubt is that you're usually not. Sign up for this subscription. Starts at $50 a month. We'll ship you out professionally clean and pressed sheets of your choice. Enjoy it. Change the color. Change the style. Really have some fun with this subscription service. I think you're going to really enjoy it. Go to easysheets.club. I guarantee you and whoever's sleeping next to you are really going to enjoy it. As always, visit me at The Unlicensed Counselor if you've got questions, want to book some time. Happy to work one-on-one with folks. And last but not least, we are officially getting ready to launch our Coalition for Youth Drug Abuse Prevention. You know, I'm actually going to be doing my first interview here. I'm going to bring in my co-founder and radio talk show host, Seth Leibson, who's going to be joining me on the podcast. We'll probably go a little longer form. And the next, I think it's 2 weeks out, we're going to have our official launch September 12th. Follow us, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Hard Stop Official. All right, we are putting out some edgy content. We've got some new gear, some merchandise, some T-shirts that were done by an artist that is phenomenal stuff. We're going to be actually reaching out to people. If you know someone who's been impacted by drug or alcohol addiction, we want to hear your stories, and we're going to put them with our professional production crew and actually, allow people to share those stories out of our social channels as well. This is important stuff, and maybe the most important thing I do while I'm walking around this marble. So, okay, we got all that fun stuff out of the way. So having fun in sobriety. Again, I worked in a treatment center. I'm a person in long-term recovery. I go to AA. Like, I have been, lived, breathed, done all of this stuff. And one of the biggest things, and I also meet with people, or I get calls typically from their loved one, not always the individual, of like, they're ready to get sober or they're close to it. Can you meet with them? Can you talk to them? It's been in hotel rooms. It's been at their house. It's been a detox, whatever it is. And one of the things, I won't say number one, but one of the top things is, what am I going to do? How am I going to have fun? What's my life? It's going to be boring. Right? And I get it. Like, that's a common fear. You have defined fun, right? As I did. I'm not throwing stones at anybody. I defined fun as pouring as many drinks down my throat and then getting into all kinds of scenarios that I would never otherwise be in. Whether that is acting crazy or doing outlandish things or being loud or, chasing girls or who knows, just what adventures and things that a night filled with a bunch of booze can take you to, right? So that was my definition of fun. So if that's how I define quote unquote fun, then yeah, that's going to be a problem, because the goal is to remove alcohol and drugs from your life, right? Again, that's how I define abstinence. So, when I sit down with folks and they just start spinning out, right? Like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do with this? And I get every scenario. When my daughter gets married, I'm not going to be able to have a glass of champagne at her wedding and toast and things like that. And I'm like, you're single, you don't have a kid, like, let's not worry about that exact situation right here, right now, right? And that's where a lot of that one day at a time kind of things come in. They kind of get into this future trip and this spiral and this thing, that's this monkey brain that just starts spinning out and spinning out and spinning out. So we really do have to slow everything down a little bit and kind of start to redefine what fun is in our brain. Now, before I kind of get into how you have fun, let me also clarify some of the things not to be doing early on in your recovery as well, too, because it can set you back, and a setback in our world can be fatal, right? So the number one thing is isolation, right? So just because you've stopped drinking, I don't care if you go to AA, I don't care if you go to outpatient or treatment, or just stop drinking on your own, right? Like, that's perfectly acceptable too. If that's what works for you, do it. I really don't care how in the heck you choose. I just want people who have a problem with drinking to stop drinking, right? That's my number one thing. But if you're able to kind of hit that hard stop, that reset, and kind of pause, what I don't want you to do is just start hanging out by yourself, right? If you're now just alone, solo, and you're probably going to have more time on your hands as well too. All of those times where you used to post up in the corner bar, or your friends would call you and go to happy hour. By the way, we probably need to update the term happy hour as well too. I don't know a lot of people that come out of happy hour necessarily happy. They come home late, drunk, wife's pissed, kids wondering where they are, messed up. It's midnight on a Tuesday. Podcast for another time. But I really, you're going to have more time on your hands because the time that you had dedicated to drinking, which if you were like us, problem drinkers, alcoholic type drinkers, filled up a good amount of your time. So we're going to need to fill that time with other activities, right? Now, some of that can be going to meetings and doing some of the counseling and things like that, but that's still going to leave you a boatload of hours left in your day that you're unaccounted for, and that can lead quickly down into some problems. So find a way to get engaged in some activities, right? I don't care if it's lifting or exercise or running. I don't care, truthfully, what that is. I want you to be out, not sitting on your couch, just letting that mind continue to go. In an ideal world, you'd be engaged with your friends, you'd be volunteering somewhere, because the good that comes from helping others starts to improve your mental health, well-being, and all of those things as well, too. What you're hearing me kind of say in a non-AA way is a lot of AA principles as well, too. But I've just seen too many people get turned off from AA. I don't even truly believe that it's a turnoff. They just shut it down without even giving it a fair shake, candidly. They just hear God and blame it on, I don't want to do this, or I don't like these people, or I'm different from them. It's all BS. It really is. I'm different, I'm special, I'm unique. No, you're not. I've seen everybody walk in the door of treatment centers from, multi-millionaires to practically homeless folks, maybe homeless folks walk in the door. We're all the same. We all have that same kind of brain that landed us in the same spot, the same couch, spinning the same tales with just slightly different outcomes and stories. So however you need to kind of get connected to a group of people, right? I am for AA, church, a bowling league, minus the beer. Right? Find some going for a walk out in the woods, listening to podcasts, starting your own podcast, start a YouTube channel, get going, doing something that makes you happy, brings a smile to your face, and gets you up and going and off the couch, right? Honestly, I just don't want you sitting in a room with the brains that are newly sober, that we're still, physiologically, chemically, it's going to take at least 90 and more than likely 120 days for our brains to start to heal, start to turn the corner, start to kind of rewire itself, for that memory to come back, for that fog to get lifted. You literally are almost just buying yourself time, right? Maybe you need to get a second job or something like that. I don't know what it is, but find something that kind of takes up your time. So don't sit alone. Don't isolate. Don't let your brain just kind of spin on itself, right? Second is, watch out who you associate with, right? Watch out who you associate with. The analogy that I always use is, if somebody was sitting in this chair next to me and they were standing up on it, is it easier for that person to pull me up, or for them, to pull me down, or for you to pull them down, right? I always have that picture in my head, and it is so dang easy to pull someone down, right? Someone who's vulnerable. Maybe you've just gone through divorce, finance, job, money's tight, maybe they're offering some, who knows what the situation looks like. All of a sudden, you kind of befriend somebody, and maybe even in the beginning they had nice intentions, although I've seen it too many times, ulterior motives when people become friends, people in early recovery, because they're vulnerable. We're susceptible people. We literally are healing from all of these things in our brain and emotions and all this type of stuff. So be very careful. And I mean, people, if you do use the AA and that whole thing, be careful who you associate with. I think I said this in one of the podcasts earlier. It's like, hang around 5 smokers, you're going to be the 6th. Hang around 5 distance runners, and you're going to be a 6th. Who you associate with is going to ultimately drive what you're going to end up like, right? So if you find some people that are shaky, rocky, dicey, maybe still participating in some of this, fringe or drinking or using behavior, and you kind of gravitate towards that, boy, I would be very concerned. I would be very concerned. So pick who you are hanging out with, who you want to spend your time with very wisely. And I'll echo this on the dating side of this thing too. In the AA world, they say you shouldn't date for a year. I broke that, right? So, Steve, are you a hypocrite? I don't know. I had my sponsor talking to her sponsor, and we were in counseling, we had treatment. It was a whole thing. Ultimately, it still ended up in divorce about 9 years later, but that's neither here nor there. But looking back on the situation, I just see it was two people coming together who were hurting, who found each other and kind of almost survived on each other and fed off. And we were doing that in a good way. But I do think that we were the exception, not the norm in that. And even if I looked back on doing it, granted, I have a daughter out of the relationship and, it's still a friend to this day and all this type of stuff. There's a lot of good. But I can see now looking at it where that don't date for a year thing comes from, right? Is because we're just healing people. We're very vulnerable. Like we want that connection. We want to not feel the pain inside and the shame and the guilt of probably a lot of the things that we've just come through. And when you're able to connect with somebody like that, it just helps. It makes you feel a little bit better. It makes you feel loved, wanted, secure, and all of those things. And it just feels better than having to deal with, process, sit, work your way through mentally, cry, all the things that you probably need to be dealing with early on. And the reason that you need to sit with that, feel that, experience it, process it, work through it is so we don't do it again, right? So we don't do it again. I'm not going to harp on that, but not only can it just pull you out of your focus in early recovery, it could potentially set it back as well too. It's too easy for people to, one person to be like, I'm going to pick up, or I'm going to use this, or I'm going to use that. And then all of a sudden you've got somebody out. And again, in this day and age, one slip like that can be fatal. It just is the truth of the matter. And I don't want to go to any more funerals, and I don't want to see anybody pass because they found a boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, that they thought was good for them, that they would work in the program or sober, whatever it is. So those are a few things that I just wouldn't do in early recovery. Now, I know I said, we're going to talk a little bit more about fun. So the number one thing, redefine your definition of fun. Number two thing, find some activities to fill your time, right? Things that you like to do. Maybe things that you've always wanted to do and never tried. I still have a list of things that I'd like to be able to do. I still haven't done an open mic night. That's on my list of things to be able to do. And look, I'm, again, 9 years into this thing, and I'm still checking things off my list. Go easy on yourself, though. Don't feel like you got to jam it. Like, I see this happen a lot of times. People get sober, and it's like somebody lights a fire under them, and it's like, whoa, boy, I've been wasting all this time, and now they're just charging and want to get to everything. Take a breath. Go easy. Relax. Understand you got a lot of time. You need to work through some of these things. But I would much rather see someone taking action to improve themselves in whatever way, shape, or form than just kind of sitting around. So next up on the list in terms of just fun is, finding the new right, quote unquote, friends out of this situation. I find a lot of my friends through sports, through athletics, through the gym, people. So that's me going out and putting myself in situations that I enjoy. I like running. I like lifting. I found a whole new community in my yoga. Again, wouldn't be an Unlicensed Counselor podcast without a yoga plug. I got my medicine this morning. I went to my hot yoga class and I actually really needed it because it just helps center me. And I had my mind going in a lot of different directions as well too. But you go out, you get involved into things, communities, organizations, you meet people, and maybe you'll find somebody to date then. But it's just making connections with new people under new pretenses. They don't know anything about your past either, right? So you get to kind of be this new healthy version of yourself that you don't necessarily have to go share all this crap that you used to do down, when you were using and all that kind of stuff. So I just think that there's a really great way to kind of reinvent yourself with your friends that are completely new and go get involved in Orange Theory or something like that, or go to a boxing class, or go join a band or something. I don't know what it is, but go out and find a peer group that you can get involved with. All right. So if you Google how to have fun in sobriety, you're going to see just a list of just activities and things like that. But I think one of the most fun things that I've kind of grown into that's not just kind of activity-based is being more comfortable in my own skin, right? And that's taken me a long time. So, for example, I have a wedding coming up with a friend of mine who I've known for 15 years, 20, I don't know, maybe longer. We used to party, have fun, do all that kind of stuff. He's getting married up in Park City, Utah. Weddings are a big booze fest a lot of times, right? And this one is no exception. There's nothing wrong with that. But early on in my days, I would kind of get into my head, not that I couldn't drink, but it's like, what am I going to do there? What am I going to do? And it's just taken me years of kind of putting myself in these situations, seeing how I react, where you really start to get more comfortable in your own skin. I enjoy being able to go to these events and parties now. First off, they typically have great food, right? So I love to crush some food here. I'll always put, a drink of some kind in my hand, usually just a club soda with a lime. People get nervous all the time and recover. Well, what do they see I'm not drinking? What do I say? Nobody gives two rips that you're not drinking. 99% of the time, they're not even going to notice, right? Like, they're getting lit, they're getting drunk, they're getting close talking, they're getting loud, they're dancing like idiots. Like, let them go, have their fun. But I have found more fun now where I can go out, joke around, be around my friends. I can still tear up the dance floor, but I'm much more comfortable in my own skin than I used to be. But that took a lot of time to kind of get there. It took a lot of me putting myself in social situations that, they're maybe slightly uncomfortable when you're used to having a bottle in your hand and you're doing a couple shots and you're the life and you're, doing the worm at the party. It's a little different these days, but over time, again, I practiced. I don't know if I was intentionally kind of cognitively practicing it, but I really was by just going to these events. And it's not a big deal. Like, they don't care. I've become less and less caring about what other people think while I'm out at these things. And it's just this comfort level that I enjoy now. And the beautiful part is I can wake up and still get my run in, my lift in, get my breakfast. They're up, eating junk food at 2:00 in the morning, getting hammered. And I like my life now, but it took me a long time to kind of get through and start to enjoy those. So it's really kind of, and I've talked about this in previous podcasts, kind of the reframing of what my definition of fun is and how I choose to have fun. Another little, secret tip for all of this stuff too, is if you've got somebody else who doesn't really drink, either as a date, a husband or wife, you know what? Recruit them to come with you to some of this stuff. It's a lot more fun and even easier if you've got a partner in crime that you can laugh at some of this other stuff. And if you need to duck out early, duck out early. Like, there's no pressure to have to sit through all of these things when people are getting loaded. Maybe they're doing drugs, they're doing shots, things are getting a little rowdy. Typically, I'll bail before that kind of stuff. And you're like, well, is that fun? It is for me because I'm 44 years old now. Like, I get it. I've been there, done that. I got no fear of missing out. Like, I've drank all the drinks. I believe everybody has a certain number of drinks in their lives, and I've hit my limit on mine, and I'm completely okay with that. So I like having a friend who's with me, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever it is, and I can just kind of be like, all right, you seeing all this? This is great. Let's get a video of this. Let's bounce back to the hotel room. Let's order some room service. Let's go get a dessert, and then let's just chill and, call it a night. So again, that is me having fun in a new life and a new skin and being completely comfortable with this as well. And I just think people need to understand that when you're out at these parties and things like that, nobody else cares that you're not drinking. They're not worried about it. They don't care. Like, just have some canned excuses if you really feel like you need it, or just have the fake drink in your hand as well too. So, these are just little nuggets that I've kind of picked up along the way that allow me to have a little bit more fun. I'm also allowing myself to be, especially as a dad now, to be not taking myself quite as serious, right? Like, I have felt like I've worn the weight of the weight of the world on my shoulders for a long time, whether that was the startup or, trying to be a better husband and things like that. And yeah, am I over-exaggerating a little bit? Yes, but, now I can dance with my daughter. I mean, she's got a Snow White outfit on here in the other room, right? And it was like, before it was like, oh, do you want to walk around with that? Yeah, it's amazing. It's awesome. She's smiling. It makes other people smile, makes me smile. Like, just relax a little bit. Don't have to be so serious about everything, right? We get one spin through this life, right? Like, have a little fun with this, relax a little bit. Not everything necessarily has to be so serious, right? I think I was a little bit too serious on a lot of these things too. But again, stuff that took me time to kind of find in and of myself as I work through my recovery and my sobriety and how I want to kind of change my life and how I want to do it better going forward. But I also enjoy, I was never a big movie guy, but now I can sit down and turn on a documentary on Netflix or something and just find some fun in peace and quiet as well, too. I feel like I used to have to constantly have somebody texting me, there's a party, there's an event, how are we getting into here, what are we doing, who's driving, where are we going, what's the next trip? Like it was just this mad rush to always have something to do and never be alone. And now I can enjoy myself, right? Well, Steve, you said not to be alone. Yeah. In that first year, I wouldn't necessarily do it. I'm year 9 down here is a little different place where I'm at, and really drinking's not an option for me, so that doesn't even really cross my mind. But now I can sit and enjoy a little downtime by myself, right, and not have to worry about nobody texts you past midnight anymore. Don't care. I've been asleep for 2 hours by that point, anyways, right? Like the stuff that used to be important to me is not that important to me anymore. And I've completely, rearranged my priorities in my life. And I'm now just able to be a little more comfortable in my own skin, be able to settle in on a night and not feel like I've left out or I didn't get invited to this. And I'm just comfortable at home with the dogs. If my daughter's with me, with my daughter, and it's just nice. There's just this kind of sense of calmness and quiet and being able to appreciate just little things like that, at the pace I was moving in and the way that I wanted to keep myself busy. And I think I kept myself busy just so I didn't have to reflect on probably not liking myself a whole lot at that point in time, right? I don't know if I genuinely was aware of that at the time, but just the way that I was conducting my life and how I was behaving, I just don't think I was a huge fan of myself. And it was just this preoccupation with booze and drugs and things like that. So, there's just some things. Again, I didn't want to get on and talk about how to have fun. It's like, ride a bike, go do this, go do that. There's plenty of that stuff that's out there on the web that you can find that if you need to fill time. And it's not a bad thing, right? If you need to just fill some time, especially in that first year, go do it. Just keep trying stuff. That doesn't work, next on the list. Get a list of 50 things. That doesn't work, try it, didn't like it. Try it, next, what's on the list? Keep trying. And then what you'll find is your brain starts to heal. Life looks a little bit different. Typically, it gets a little bit better when you remove drugs and alcohol for over periods of time. And then you can kind of start to feel who you are and start to make decisions and find what fun looks like for you. So, interesting stuff. I've just been thinking a lot about it. This is that time of year where there's so much to do out here in Scottsdale, Arizona. I was like, I was talking to somebody the other day and it's like, well, what do I do if I stop drinking? What do I do? What do I do? What do I do? What do I do? There's tons of stuff to do. You do have to go search it out though, right? And it is going to be different than what you used to do. And you have to be okay with that. But look at it as practice. You're going to have fun. Get around some people who are going to support you. And I guarantee you're going to be able to laugh and remember it much more than you have any of your previous life. So good stuff. All right, I just want to close the last couple minutes before I shut this whole bad boy down. I'm getting a lot of comments on Facebook and Instagram are like, what is it, this unlicensed counselor? Can you be doing this? Should you be talking about this? You're uneducated and things like that. I get a lot of this stuff thrown at me. It's really fun, and I enjoy it like heck, like talking to people. First off, they've never listened to the podcast. It's the first thing. I'm like, go listen and tell me what you don't like. Right? My whole goal in this is to kind of come with a different perspective than what your traditional counselor would do. Solution focused, direct, actionable, take home, tangible things that you want to do. Well, you're unlicensed. You shouldn't be out here doing this. You know what? Take a listen. And if you don't like it, leave it. Like, I really don't care in any way, shape, or form what you think about this. I want to come at this with different perspectives because counseling as it stands in the world works for a lot of people, but I do think there needs to be an opposing voice or at least a different way of viewing certain situations and challenges. So that has come up a lot of times on Facebook lately. So I just wanted to come out here and say it. Take what you want and leave what you don't. It doesn't bother me at all. But I do encourage anybody who's out there, just share this episode or one of the other episodes that's related on a topic that you might find of interest with a friend. Hit the 3 little dots and send it out there directly to an individual. I do that all the time on the different topics that I've spoken about. and see what you think. I just think it's a fresh, different way of thinking about some of these topics as well. I like to speak from my life experience. I've had quite a bit. I think that the life experience is almost equally as valuable as whatever letters that are coming after someone's name. Not always, but I think a lot of the time. And I think we've gotten into this kind of default thing. License means better advice, better suggestions, and I just don't find that to always be the case. And hence, the Unlicensed Counselor was born. So, anyways, take a listen. Thanks again for all your support. I appreciate it. My name is Steve Moak. I am the Unlicensed Counselor. Until next time, thank you very much.